right, guys, we're back in the booth tonight. I wanted to thank our sponsor of the video, LureBuild.com. Jimmy has excellent blanks, eyes, stencils from Insane Custom Stencils. He has his own brand. So go check him out, LureBuild.com, for all your painting and lure supply needs. So let's get to it. All right, we are back in the booth tonight, and we are going to do a deep diver in this Crappie pattern. I've changed my background for these videos. How about give me some comments, tell me what you like about it better or worse. We're going to go ahead and get started. I've already painted my blank. This is actually a deep diver from LureBuild. He calls it a Chubby chaser. I really like these blanks. They're real heavy duty. Another little tip is I used a auto-borne sealer in silver, but it gives off a fantastic finish. I'm not even gonna put any other paint over that to put my Crappie pattern on. We're just gonna go ahead and lay it as it is. I actually had talked to somebody from Costa Airbrush, and they kind of put me on that. It's actually new, but man, it is shiny. It really puts off a vibrant finish. So what we're gonna do, we're actually gonna use a Custom Saints Crappie stencil on this. And I'm gonna get a little black from my gun. I'm gonna get my little sponge out, my trusty sponge, where I can prop it up a little bit. I'm going to use my Creos 771 on this. Get a few drops of black carbon. I am going to put me a little paper towel right here so I can test shoot my paint. I do that all the time, just so I have something to hit it on. Well, that ain't gonna work. I'll just put it on my lap. So, clean my needle off. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna line it up. It's a pretty cool little stencil. And I don't want to blast the stencil, so I'm just going to hit it very lightly, and then I'll pull it up and see where I'm at. And that did perfect. I am going to put a little bit up here where it kind of missed a little bit. It's not bad. And that took care of it. I'll put a little, we'll go ahead and do some of this face. It's actually got a design on it. And I'll show you a trick we're gonna do here. Let me find my scissors. There we are. You can take these stencils, and to make them fit, you can actually cut them. So I'm just going to cut it so I can just pop it over it and get it on there the way I want it. Just like that. And I'll just hit it lightly. Pull it off, and there you go. And I can take it, and I can just go ahead and finish that eye. I already know what kind of eye I'm going to put in it. So that's what you get. It really does a good job. And we'll go ahead and do the other side. And I'll try to do it all at once since I've already split the build on it with the stencil rather. All I can just do, it's hard to hold these stencils on if you're trying to break it up. So We'll do the face here first. And then I'll do this. And then we'll do the body. We'll pull that off. Yeah, that did what I wanted to. I'll take this and hit that right there. And then I'll just put the body on and I'll hit the rest of it. This is actually a perfect stencil for this. It's got a flat body and it works out really well. Take that off. And it gives it kind of like a muffled look. It really looks good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let that dry. And I'm going to go ahead and clean my gun out. Let's see. Yeah, I'm going to do that. You know, I'll just take my Sotar and use it real quick. I put a bluish silver on the top. And then I'll take a little bit of green poison candy and run it over the I haven't used my Sotar in a while. It's kind of acting up a little bit. I may have to switch guns. Hang on just a second. We'll just go ahead and run with the Creos. I haven't used it in a couple weeks. It just needs to be lubed. Let me clean this out and I'll show you what color we're going to put on the top of this. It'll be hard to see this color, but it's actually a metallic auto air blue, metallic blue silver. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to run it over the top, and then I'm going to mix a little bit of green candy up. I am going to put a fin on this one too, so we'll put this on and we'll let it dry while we do the fin. This blue silver is kind of a thick paint. I may need to put a little reducer into this because it's a little bit thicker than normal. Organized tonight. I wasn't going to do a video, and then I kind of got where I wanted to do one. I've been wanting to do a Crappie on this bait. I love this bait. Okay, it's not going to take a lot of paint. I'm going to put some 4011 in this and go ahead and reduce it down. It's kind of thick. You'll especially with me shooting it out of my Creos, it's a 0.18 needle, so it's not gonna, you know, shoot real thick paints. And I like reducing it down anyway. I hope I ain't reduced this too much. This paint wants to kind of clump up a little bit, but it's a real cool color for a Crappie. It actually looks really good, especially the color Crappie we have here where I live. So we'll go ahead and test this on this paper here. Okay, and I'll just hold it to do this. And I'm just going to run it. I'm just going to run it on the top. It's going to be really hard to see because it's real close to what I have on there until you get it painted on. I've got a small vise here that I'll just grab my regular vise. I'm trying to get these videos where you can actually see what I'm doing. And my vise is at the end of my table and it's kind of hard to, I can turn it so you can see it. I can go back out just a little bit. And while that's drying, we can do our fins. It didn't take a lot. I usually waste more paint than I'm good with. And I'm actually going to use a stencil from Whitmore Farms that I've actually cut up. I'm going to take it off here. These are really nice stencils. He does a great job with them. And I'm going to do a kind of a two-part stencil on this, how I'm going to spray it. I'm going to spray it white. See if I can get a little bit more of this on here. It's a really cool color, and it really matches a Crappie good, especially when I get that green on it. Okay, so we'll let that dry. And we'll clean my gun out. I'm going to show you a little trick that I've learned with these stencils. I used to take I could take this white, and it's going to be a titanium white. It's going to be really white. And I used to cover these and get up here. And I like this one here, and I'll put it, let's turn it a little bit more so I can see it. And what I'll do is I'll put it right about here, and I'll do the whole thing white. And I'll pull it off, and then I'll come back and do it black, and it'll give it a really cool look. I used to take a marker and I'd run my lines in, but I tried this with this stencil and it kind of looked pretty good, so I started doing this. Can't really see it right now, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this same white and I'm going to cover the bottom, because the Crappies have a white bottom. And I'll let it run up just a little bit. It really has a neat look. I'll put just a little bit around that mouth. Okay. And I'm going to clean that off. Put me a little bit of black in the gun. And it just helps the fin stand out a little bit better. I actually used a solid. I hope this is going to work. This is the first time I tried it on this one. I used this one for the second part, but I had used another open one. That may be the way to go, but I think it'll still work fine with this. I just got to line it up right. Okay. I'll just dial it down so I don't blast it. That's a good thing about the 771. It's got a MAC valve on it, and I can just, all I'm really wanting to do is just kind of dust this black paint on there, just to kind of give it a darker look. And I'll lock my stencil in, my stand, and I just got to line it up. It's hard to see. I hope this is gonna work. And I'm just gonna put a little bit of black on it. And that looks fine. It kind of made it really tie in. I like that a lot. It's not hard, and like I said, this comes on the bottom. When you buy stencils from Whitmore, he gives you a lot of stuff for one stencil, and it's just really cool. And it's just a matter of just lining it up. I'm blind on top of it. That doesn't help matters. And all I'm trying to do is just hit a little bit of it. Just a little bit of dark paint, and that works fine. Okay. And I'm going to show you a trick that I learned to kind of make the sides kind of, it softens them up. And I'm going to take some iridescent pearl. Or I could do the same with the silver ink. I'm gonna use this iridescent because I kind of like the way it looks. And I'm gonna do one other thing on this bait that I didn't do on this one. On this bait here, what I'm actually gonna do is, I'm gonna take that iridescent, I don't know if you can see it real well, but it puts a sheen on it. It makes it kind of look 3D. It gives it a really neat look. Especially with the fins. And I'm gonna try to put a scale pattern on the top of it. I haven't tried that yet, but these are gonna catch fish. They look good. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna put some iridescent in here. Just put a few drops. You don't need a lot. And my pressure is on about 20. And I'm just gonna take it and I'm just gonna run over, just lightly, just dust the sides. So what it does is those spots that I made really dark, it kind of knocks that down. I'm gonna let that dry. Well, I'll tell you what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna take it and heat set this. I'm gonna take that same pearlescent and I'm gonna put a little bit of a scale pattern on that top after I put some black on it, just to see what it looks like. In my gun, I'm going to take this adapter off and I'm going to use my Iwata HPCH. I don't use this gun that much, but it's very nice. It's got a .20. needle in it. It's a very nice gun. So let me get a little bit of put a lot of black on this. Very little. I'm barely going to put enough in this. Cut it down. And all I'm going to do is just run over this little middle bar. I'm not going to do a lot. I don't want a ton of black on this. It needs just a little bit. Okay. And that really finishes it off. But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to let this dry, and I'm going to take my loofah, and I'm going to shoot that pearl over the top of that. And I want to see, I don't want a real bright scale pattern. I just want a faint one, but I think it'll put a real cool looking one on it. It'll be a little bit different than the other bait, but I've kind of thought about it all day, and I want to try that to see what it'll do. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to put a little bit of poison candy right here on the shoulders, just under that, and it's going to be done. Very simple bait, not hard to do. Let me heat set it really fast, and then we'll go and try that scale pattern. Just for a second, I'm going to go ahead and put that Candy 2.0 in a container and let it sit just for a second. If I can find what I did with the containers. Not really organized tonight. It needs a little bit of green. After that, it'll be in good shape. Get a little UVLS and mix it with it. I'll put a little bit of 4011 into that, and we'll stir it up and let it sit for a minute while we do this scale pattern. You really want this to bind up a little bit, so we'll go ahead and stir this up, and we'll let it sit for a second. It's not going to need a whole lot. The candies are really good, especially because they're transparent. It's really, they're really nice paints to have. If you don't have them, invest a little bit and get some of them. You'll really like them. You won't go wrong, I tell you that. You will not go wrong. All right, so what I'm going to do, and you're not going to, you may not even be able to see it on camera, but with the black, you probably will. So I'm going to take it and I'm going to lock my stand down. And I'm going to put my wheel, and I just want to do where I put the black. I'm not going to blast this with, I got to get it to hold it. I'm not going to blast it. I'm just going to put a faint little bit on there. I'm just going to let it sit on there. And I'm going to hit it with the pearlescent, and it turned out great. I don't know if you can see it or not, but it really put a cool little scale pattern on there. I wish I'd have done it with the other one. I'd been thinking about it all day, and I said I should have done that, and I'm glad I did now, because I will put it on the rest of mine, I can tell you that. going to make the bait. I'm not going to put a whole lot of candy in. Like I said, I'm just going to put it right there on the shoulder. I just like a little green on mine. There's actually a line there on this bait. And I'm just going to follow that line. And I'm going to put a little bit on there. And that's going to be it. I'm going to let it dry. I'll hit it with some UVLS. And we'll just finish this bait off the way I want it. I don't know if you can see that or not, but that really makes the bait. Okay, we'll clean that out. Let it dry, because I'm not going to heat set candy. Let that dry, and we'll take the bill off. We'll hit it with some UVLS and get some eyes in it. And that's going to be it. It's not a very hard pattern. You know, the big thing is the fins, and I'll take this out and let you see it. You know, the fins take a little bit of practice, but it's a very easy one to do. Fun to do. It's going to catch fish. Crappie baits I've always had have always caught good fish. Get this razor blade. Get this picked up. Won't cut my hand. Still having trouble with my hand. I can't just grab stuff. I don't have a whole lot of feeling in my thumbs or my index finger, and it just makes it a little bit harder, but I'm really wanting to paint. Okay. All right, that'll let you look at it a whole lot better. It has got a really neat sheen. The green, the poison green really just adds to it. Like I said, our crappie have that little tinge of green on the shoulders. Take that down. Put this up and we'll get some eyes on it. I'm just going to use regular shad eyes for this silver. I think they work out the best. They look the best. I've already done this bait. Well, I did one similar to it. I didn't put the scale pattern on it like I did this one, but I think that's only going to make it better. And I think the silver eyes look really good too. It just ties it in. I'll let you look at it, then I'll hit some UVLS on it. And for those of you who haven't watched my videos, what UVLS will do, it'll lock all these colors in and put a hard shell around it, and then I'll let it dry for 24 hours, and I'll come back and I'll put the epoxy on. While I'm waiting on my lure, I've changed epoxies. I'm actually using Lure Coat by LureBuild now. And that just kind of shows you the scale pattern I put on. We put the fin on, a 2-layer fin. We ran the candy. Somebody wanted to know, you know, they wanted me to show them the paints that I used, and I've tried to do that as I go. Put this up here, let it sit. You can see it. It's a really neat looking bait. It's probably some of the best crappie baits I've ever painted. So what we'll do is we'll let that dry for just a second, and we'll mix up some UVLS. Get my big gun back out. why my compressors all of a sudden started coming on a whole lot. It's old. I've had it for a couple of years now. I'm about ready to upgrade to one of those California compressors. All right, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to let it dry just for a second. If anybody has any questions, like I said, you can put it in the comments. The blank came from LureBuild. He calls it the Chubby Chaser. The eyes came from LureBuild. They're just a regular shad eye. So what we'll do is we'll just dry it off the gun. Take this out for a minute. I'm not used to not using my one that spins. So I'm just going to dry it off. Make sure that can is dry. And I can go back over the paints real quick. I can go over these guns. This is my Krios PS290 with a 5mm. What I use it for, I strictly use it for autoborne sealer, heavy whites, the UVLS. I use it for stuff that's gonna, you know, my other guns are very small, 2.0, 2mm and less. You start spraying that stuff through it, it's gonna lock it down. So what I'm gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and hit this with the UVLS. I'm gonna put a good coat on it, just get it good and wet. And you can see once it starts getting wet, kind of like putting epoxy on it, it really starts coming to life. You don't want it to start running, but you want to put it on good and wet. And we'll let that dry. Clean my gun real quick because you definitely don't want to leave UVLS in the gun. And I use very, very hot water when I clean these guns in between colors. You know, I've told you before, I don't mix any colors. I don't like doing that. So what I'll do is, well, this is my Krios PS771, very good gun, 0.18 needle, very fine detail gun, and I'll go over the colors that I used. So I started out with a autoborne sealer silver. Then I came back over it with the carbon black. This bottle looks like, I don't know what it looks like, it's been through a war. I used carbon black, and that was for the pattern. I used golden titanium white for the base of the fin. Then I used the carbon black to go over it. Then I used the iridescent golden, and I kind of just put a dusting across both sides. To kind of, what it does, it just kind of softens it. It makes it look real. It's really crazy what that does. And I can't remember where I saw that at, but I started doing it and it really changed the way I did crappie baits. Then I took the titanium golden also when I did the fins and I did the bottom. I did the bottom in jet white because a crappie's belly is more white than it is pearl. So I did that. Then on the top, I put a layer of metallic blue silver auto air on the top. Then I ran one layer thin on the just the crown of the blank. I put a layer of carbon black on that. And then I came over it with my stencil, my loofah, and I shot the pearl over the black. And what it does, it just gives it a wicked look. You actually see the pearl, but you see the, you actually see all of the black. It is actually a really neat detail on this bait. And what I'll do after I get it epoxied, I will show it to you. I'll post some pictures of it because the epoxy, I mean, it's not even epoxied and it's shining. I mean, it really has a cool look. I'll try to take it down and let you see it. It's got a very, very neat look. Your scale pattern. And then you see the green float going back into the iridescent pearl, back to the white belly. It's really matched up very good. The fin trick you can do, it's not hard. Hit the like button, subscribe, hit the bell notification so you know when I'm doing videos. And I appreciate you watching and supporting me. And like I always say, I'll catch you next time. Thanks.